Danse, Jaden Wemigwan's here. I'm here in my home country, Cree territory, um, Duncan's First Nations, Alberta, by way of Wakwamacong First Nations, Ontario. I'm here to sing for Orange Shirt Day, and my fellow um, peers will share some information and knowledge as well. I'm going to be doing an opening song here, and yeah, here it goes. Miigwech, I hope you all have a great day of information. Hi, hi.
Chimigwich, Jaden. My name is Bob White Duck Crawford. I'm a counselor and professor here at George Brown, and I'm going to just first smudge and then do the opening prayer. Smudging is a way that we purify ourselves and to get ready for the ceremony or what we need to do. Um, and when we smudge, that you smudge your eyes so you can see good things in people. You smudge your ears so you can hear good things. You smudge your mouth so you can say good things and see the good intention in people. And we smudge our spirit so we can put that energy, that good energy, forward to the people that we are with in a good way. So I'll do a prayer now. Kwekwe, Kichimanado, Gizi Dizka, Sagonquin Nation Dunjaba, Mikanat Tedotum, Mashomas, Nokomis. We say Chimigwich, Gichimanado for bringing us together here today. And we hope that we pray for the people who that will they be safe and healthy during this time of upset. Um, and remind us, Creator, Kachimanado, to be good human beings and remember the teachings during this hard time, because it's a time that we need to stay balanced and depend on the gifts of our teachings to help us through this. We honor the children that attended those residential schools, and the ones that survived, and unfortunately the ones that didn't survive. We say to you, we honor you to this day, and you are warriors for your people. I say chimigwich to you for sacrificing and being hurt through that. And I pray for the communities and for the healing of all our people in regards to who have been traumatized by the residential schools. I say chimigwich, 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 all my relations, hi hi.
Acknowledging land at the start of gatherings, ceremonies, and events is a practice Indigenous people have been doing for generations, long before settlers arrived. Recognizing the land you are on is an expression of respect and gratitude. There's a strong connection to the land as traditional knowledge, language, cultural practices, oral traditions including storytelling, all have connection to the land. For Indigenous people, this equates to a moral responsibility to care for, live in harmony with, defend, and respect the land. Canada has a history of using assimilation tactics and force to obtain Indigenous land and resources. One example would be residential schools. Due to the atrocities that happened at residential schools, the Truth and Reconciliation Commission was formed with the purpose of documenting the history and lasting impacts of residential schools on Indigenous children and their families. In recognition of the resulting 94 calls to action, we are making a commitment to take part in the process of reconciliation, and giving a land acknowledgement is a small gesture towards this process. Please join us in acknowledging that we are on the traditional territory of the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Wendat, which is now home to many Indigenous people from across Turtle Island. We also acknowledge that Toronto is a treaty territory, a relationship between the Mississaugas of the Credit and Canada. This land is also part of the Dish with One Spoon Treaty, an agreement between the Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and allied nations to peacefully share and care for this land. Other Indigenous people, settlers, and newcomers have been invited into this treaty in the spirit of peace, friendship, and respect. This means we are all treaty people. As such, it is our responsibility to honor and respect this land and express gratitude for the opportunity to work on and share this land. In addition, we recognize our college was founded upon exclusions and erasures of many Indigenous people, including those on whose land this institution is located. By acknowledging this, we demonstrate our commitment to truth and reconciliation and are beginning the process of working to dismantle ongoing legacies of colonialism. As a call to action, we ask each of you to learn more about the issues Indigenous people face, be an ally by disrupting oppressive spaces and educating others, and finally include Indigenous ways of knowing into whatever it is that you do. A nice way to start is to learn more about truth and reconciliation by reading the Truth and Reconciliation Commission of Canada's 94 Calls to Action. All my relations. All my relations basically translates to we are all related. It is a reminder that everything in the universe is part of a single whole and is connected in some way to everything else. This means everything and everyone are our relatives, and that they have a purpose and are worthy of respect and care, especially the land and each other. Miigwech, Wilaliuk, and thank you, all my relations.
Hi, Pauline. If you could please turn on your mic and your video, and thank you very much.
Okay. Bonjour, the way Maganaduk. Adim Kikwa, Dish the Kaskibana Senator Dam, Hani Wagi Pitaguan, Medewiane, and Metawadakwe and Dow, and Manio Square, and I come from the land of the Cree Nation Treaty 6 in Saddle Lake, Alberta, and I've been here since the beginning and the end of the 60s. So I brought my children here, and this is where they are, and this is where we have, made our, landed, in here as a, as a Nihiawak. So I'd like to say miigwech to, and I hate to our singer, but I also like to say, to our traditional teacher, Bob, for that beautiful, Gagagi Simone that he did. And I want to say, miigwech to Jolene, and I want to say miigwech to all of this is for George Brown, George Brown, where I am the cultural teacher. And I've been there since, for a long, long time anyway. And I also, my role right now is to talk about the origin of the Orange Shirt Day. And everywhere today, September 30th, 2020, it's all about, September 20th of the Orange Shirt Day. And, I feel so good about it because I was part of that. And I'm going to tell you a story as a survivor of a residential school in Alberta after. But I'd like to start with of how, where did, when we talk about our culture, we always talk about the beginning. Where is the beginning, and where are we going, and who are we going, and what are we doing? So we have to assert ourselves and give that statement, because we are the teachers. This is our responsibility to give the the story, the historical facts. So I just want to say miigwech to my Shishiguan first. This is the first sound in creation, in our creation story. And I also want to say miigwech to Migase here, who I'm holding, and I also want to say miigwech always in our way of life. We always acknowledge the water in our ceremony. So I want to say miigwech to the Nibi, that because we all are made of water, each and every one of us, and that's how we survive. And each and every one of us, we've seen many people pick up their bundles, their medicine bundles, and part of that medicine bundle is their water, is themselves. So we are walking with this sacred being, and that's within us, each and every one of us. We should never forget of who we are, of how we are made out of. They say 85%, is, we're made out of water, and so I just want to say to the spirits of the George Brown, and also the ones who are going to be listening to the, into the future of, the words that are being spoken here today with this video. I'd like to say, when I said bonjour, that means hello, my relatives, because we're all related. Each and every one of us, we all came from the same source. So when we say we all came from the same source, I'd like to say miigwech to the one who told her story in 2013, and her name is Phyllis Jack Webstad, and she told her story. This little girl told her story and they had a residential school, memorial service, and so she stood up and said her story. It's a beautiful story, and it was held in what do you call it, Williams Lake, BC, and so Phyllis stood up and she said, she related her experiences, her most profound experience in that residential school. When she went to the residential school with all others, she had an orange t-shirt, an orange shirt, And in that, it was bought by her grandmother. You know how grandmothers, they love to dress up their little ones, eh? So as a 6-year-old little one, you know, between 1 and 6, we're under, between 1 and 7, we're always under the care of our grandmothers. So she was well loved by her grandma. And so when she entered that school, that residential school in Williams Lake, BC, they stripped her. They stripped her naked, like they all did in most of the residential schools, like they did to us too. They did to me. And so she was heartbroken because her shirt that was given lovingly by her grandmother was stripped from her, never to be seen. It was just taken away from her. So as a result of that, it have, you know, that whole action, it symbolizes of how they tried to, they, you know, the dominant culture, the system, the residential school system has stripped, you know, the identity of our people. So that was the beginning of that. And so as a result of that, we have gathered together in our communities, acknowledge her spirit of how, you know, she cried, and she was so brokenhearted by that, you know, taking that you know, T-shirt. And what we say and what we do in our, you know, every day is every day. Well, you can do it, wear it every day, but on this day, in September 30th, we have designated, we have said we will always remember that action that she made, that Phyllis, the little girl Phyllis had made. And in the, you know, so we have T-shirts that says every child matters. And we always wear that orange T-shirt every year. Most people have been wearing T-shirts, you know, the orange T-shirts now, you know, every week, every day of this week, in memory of that. So today, all over the newspapers, the TV, all, you know, the media, they have been saying us, it's going to be made a National Indigenous Day, September 30th. Isn't that beautiful? I mean, of course, every day is Indigenous Day to us, but we have to remind the people who have, did that to us. So we have to, say September 30th is going to be a very, very, very important day. So as a result of that, you know, I just want to say, you know, there are many, many things that bring us to mind of what that has happened, the symbolism, what has happened to us. Okay, we have, and we are continuing, you know, in the early 70s, there was the start of the seventh fire. Well, you know, there are 8 fires, and the seventh fire is us. And the seventh fire is the time when we picked up our bundles. And I myself am, you know, from the seventh fire, because that's when I started picking up my bundle with American Indian Movement, residential school, wandering spirit school, everywhere, you know, everywhere we said, this is who we are. And we have an identity. We have everything, you know, we are so rich culturally. So as a result of that, what she has brought to mind with, you know, in there is that we are going to be reminded that all of our people's cultural experiences are just as important as everybody. And we learn about, you know, the true story, the true history. And that's where people, you know, like Bob Laurie, you know, all these people are the teachers. They are the ones who make those stories come alive. So, you know, so that was the beginning also of the assimilation process. So the assimilation process I was part of that, but we fought against it. We fought against it, like Indian rights for Indian women, Section 12(1)(b). We fought against it, and we won. And everything has come forward. So I just want to say miigwech to Phyllis for doing that, but also it brings to mind of things like the doctrine of discovery. In 1493, how important it is for us to give that information to people, and how important it is to know our history of the residential school. So the first residential school was made in what we call the mush hole in Brantford in 1831. That was the first residential school. Can you imagine? That's a long, long time ago. That was even before, the time Wandering Spirit, my great-great-great-grandpa was born. And so all of that, the Indian Act in 1876, and it was so everything just came forward and, try to control, try to take everything away from us, but they never did. There's a lot of us who have been, like Bob said, and I want to thank Bob for reminding me of that. We all are warriors, each and every one of us, whatever we do, when we pick up our bundles, when we are part of that, the 70s, in the 70s, where we said, this is our way of life. Our way of life will always be here. And we are here. We are still here. We still speak our language, and we have our way of life. And the last residential school was closed in 1876, 1996, and it was closed. This is where my relatives went to school. That's the Duck Lake, Saskatchewan, and we always make a joke. Clayton and I, we went there and we said, well, where's Duck Lake? I know we have relatives in here. So we went there and we said, where's Duck Lake? We know it's around here. See that place over there? And he says, it's a reserve with no lake. There's no duck, there's no lake in there. But that's what it's called. So all of that, that was the last residential school that was closed in 1996. And so a lot of that, and a lot of these residential schools were controlled by all kinds of denominations, all kinds of churches, were in there. So we the residential school that I went to was called Blue Coast School, Blue Coast Residential School. Now it's become the first Indigenous. I see. You can see I'm from the 70s. I'll still say that word. The first Indigenous university is in St. Paul, 132 miles northeast of Edmonton, in Blue Coast School. My reserve took it over in the 70s and said, "This is our way. This is our school." It was bought with our labor. So we took it over, and now it's become one of the best universities. You should go visit it. When I went to visit it about 6 years ago, I went to sit in the steps there, in front of the steps, and I wanted to feel how it was, because it was the first time I ever really went to it, and I felt it. It was cold. It was cold, it was full of stone, but then it was, I could see right in front of me, there was teepees, TPT chains, it was so lush, it was so beautiful, because the spirit of our people, the spirit of our way of life was, has been there. And so it continues. We continue, teaching people, having really good, great cultural, experiences in there. So, and also I think one of the things, I myself, when I went to the residential school, it was a choice. It was a choice. My family was, always been, overseen by the matriarchs, my aunties, and they had this meeting. They said, shall we send our children to the school, or else leave them here on the reserve, or leave them at home, or the day school? They said, we will bring our kids, after heavy discussions and all that with everybody. They said, we will bring our children to Blue Cross School. So they did. It's 40 miles northeast of it, northeast of, in St. Paul. It's 40 miles away from the reserve. And so I remember my sisters and my brother went ahead of me. And I used to just miss them, because I grew up on a farm. And so I always remember this, because I was so close with my father. My father was a very successful farmer, and he farmed horses. We raised horses. Horses were my life, And in fact, I have a story in the museum, Alberta Museum, called a story about my pony. And so if you ever go to Edmonton, you can read my story in there. But so I went to school there only when I was 8 years old, though. The reason why because of that was we weren't allowed to go to school till we were 8 years old at that time. So I went to school and I was 8. I just turned 8 that July. And I went to school in September. And I went there and learned to, speak English, because Cree was the way I was brought up, the cultural way, in the ceremonies and all that. We had sweat lodges and all that, but we had to do our ceremonies out in the woods, away from the RCMP. So that's how I was brought up. And then I went to the residential school, and I loved it. I really liked it, because I love reading, and that was my Although I missed my mom and dad, I missed loneliness is what I suffered from. Lonely feeling. Even to this day, I always if I'm not in touch with with myself or with any of my family, I always feel so lonely. It reminds me of the time I was taken away. We were brought up by the church, by the Catholic Church. There was a big, humongous red truck in there, and it wasn't a bus. It was a red truck. And then they called each and every one of us. And I remember my mom and dad, they had me, my dad was on my right side, and my mother was on the left side, walking towards the truck. It was the red truck. And there was a priest there, and some nuns, and some, other people. And I remember halfway through, before we reached the truck, my father let go of my hand. And I said, how can he do that? I said, my father, whom I just love so much, and and I need his help right now. Because they said, you're going to go on that bus. And the ones that were there, they seemed to like they were having fun and all that stuff, running around there. And then they said, that's where you're going to go, because you're going to go to school. And you're going, and me and your mother and I are going to be going home. So to me, that was, I couldn't fathom that, being separated from my parents. So when my father let go of my hand, and I remember that, always remember that resting away. Every time I hear about residential school, I know that feeling. I know how it was, because that's when the tears started running down. And I looked at my father. He didn't even look back. And I always, before he died, I asked him, his father, how come you didn't look at me? And he said, because I was crying, my girl. He said, I was crying because were going to, being taken away from me, he said, for so long. I didn't know when I was going to see you. So I always remember that. So can you imagine all the countless experiences that the students made at that time, when every time, you talk about residential schools, there's so many, many, many outpouring of emotions in there. So we're still working at that. And George Brown is such a great, a great school to come and, gather around, learning about yourself, learn about your culture, and, and fun, and learn what the good life teachings are all about. So we try to teach the students everything that we can, the same way that all other schools, other Indigenous parents are doing in other schools. But what happened with me, I went to school there, but because I was brought up in a traditional way, I wasn't brought up as a Catholic, and I fought against, Catholicism. And it's a good thing I had some really good, acquaintances, I should say, the priests and the principals. I was treated, like if I saw something not right, then I would tell the principal. I always fought for my rights. I always had so many arguments and all that, and making sure that, that everything was right, because that's the way I was brought up. Just always speak the truth, always, make that statements, make this, the statements, because that's the way my mom and dad, my grandparents taught me to live a good life, to live the truth. So what happened with me though, in after grade 9, grade 10, because I fought against, not wanting to learn about the way I learned. I read the Bible 2 times to understand them, and but nobody could help me. So what happened was, in grade 10, before I got to grade 10, my mom and dad received a letter. They said, Pauline is not going to be, is not wanted here at Blue Quill School. And to me, that was the greatest thing that ever happened with me. And I said, wow, I can go to school. I could go to Edmonton and go to high school. But to most people, it would have been an embarrassment. To me, it never been an embarrassment. That was the biggest thing, greatest moment of my life. So because I was free from that, from the residential school. So, and that's so. I always say to people who want to disagree with something, make sure you know what you're doing. Make sure that that you ask the Spirit, because that's what we talk about, Spirit. And Bob talked about that, and other people are going to be talking about that. So I just want to say, miigwech, for listening. But the other thing too, one more thing, I just want to say, in 2008, there was that was the infamous year of apology, okay, by the former Prime Minister of Canada, Stephen Harper. And to me, it just it was just a word by word. If you really look at it, it's word by word account of the Australian government of what they said. It wasn't his words. He plagiarized that. He copied that from them. And so look at that very closely. So as a result of that, did our people accept that? A lot of people didn't. A lot of our people didn't. Nope. So although it was very emotional for them and all that, a lot of, and so I just want to say, that these residential schools, read about them. There's a lot of stories about them, a lot of our stories, a lot of good stories, a lot of heartfelt stories, and our culture is so rich. So I just want to say again that I just want to say, miigwech for allowing me to speak here today, and allowing me to, to bless this water and say, that we are going to look ahead with a great future, and we're going to smile and be, look at the 7 grandfather teachings, the truth, the love, and the acceptance, bravery, all of those, that love we have for each other, So, the students and people, I just, look at them, look at them. We have many, many, many teachings, but I also want to say this book here, can they see it? Okay, the Mishomis book. Read the Mishomis book, everybody, because that's one of my teachers, and my teacher is Eddie Benton Benai. He's ready to. He's one of these days he'll be traveling on that red road. So I just want to say miigwech again for listening to me. Miigwech.
Thank you very much for sharing, Pauline. I'm going to be playing a video of Phyllis Webstad's story.
Hello, everyone. My name is Phyllis Webstad. I am Shawetmch from the Strachamch, Kennew Hatstam, Dog Creek First Nation, which is about 1.5 hours southwest from Williams Lake, BC. I grew up with my granny on the Dog Creek Reserve until I was 10, then moved with my auntie after she finished university. When I had just turned 6, I was sent to the St. Joseph Indian Residential School near Williams Lake, a place we called the Mission. My granny bought me a shiny new orange shirt to go to school in. When I got there, I was stripped, my clothing taken away, including my new orange shirt, and I never saw it again. I was no longer excited to be going to school. I wanted to go home to Granny. I had to stay there for 300 sleeps. No matter how much all of us little kids cried, it didn't matter. No one listened to us. Our feelings didn't matter. We didn't matter. I am the 3rd generation that attended residential school. Both my grandmother and mother attended the mission for 10 years each. Today is a day to honor and remember residential school survivors and their families. Every child matters, even if you're an adult. We must also remember those children that never made it and are no longer with us. Today is a day for survivors to tell their stories and for us to listen with open hearts. I am humbled and honored that you are all taking part in Orange Shirt Day. When I was in school, I didn't know my own history, so I am overjoyed that you are taking part and learning the true history of Canada's First Peoples. Gukshjem, thank you.
Hello, at this time I would like to ask Lori Budge if she would join us and say a few words before we come to a close.
Ani, bonjour everyone. Can you hear me? I hope so. Just wanted to thank, I think at our peak we had about 85 participants in our very Indigenous Education and Services first event on Blackboard Collaborate. I want to thank Pauline and Bob for their good words, and Jimmy Rockley and Jolene for organizing and making sure we were able to show the videos and do what we did. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you go about your day thinking about those little ones in those schools. And if you're interested in reading more, Pauline talked about the testimonials. They're available at trc.ca. Chimigwech, have a great day.
Thank you, Lori. If anyone wants to send us pictures of them wearing orange shirts, that would be great, to indigenous.services@georgebrown.ca. Thank you.
Thank you, Lori. Thank you, Bob, and also miigwech Jolene for doing a great work. Okay, and all the people who are listening.
Oh yes, I also have to thank our captioner, Anne. Miigwech.
I just want to say chimigwich to everybody for coming and especially to Grandma Pauline for sharing her wisdom and her history. It certainly is for me special to hear because it reminds me of some of my experiences. So I say chimigwich.
Thanks, Bob.
And everybody also have a good day. And if you're able to go out and say a prayer and thank the ancestors or spirits of our ancestors for visiting us today also, because they also like to visit us every once in a while, especially during ceremony time. So Chimikwich to everybody.
Uh-huh. Mm-hmm. Beautiful. And I want to say hello, thank you to my helper, Paula.
Thank you,
Yeah.
Paula.
Yeah, thanks, Paula, and thanks, Pauline.
Ah, you look beautiful, Laurie.
Thank you so much.
Mhm.
You look beautiful too.
Oh, thank you.
What about me?
Nice to see you.
And you look
Oh,
handsome,
yeah.
Bob.
Yes, Bob. Handsome as ever. Oh my goodness. I guess this is it. Goodbye, everybody. Love you.
Okay. Uh-huh.
Love you.